A significant trade dispute between Canada and the United States threatens to reshape decades of stable economic relations, as reported by our senior economic correspondent. The core issue centers on Canada's potential implementation of heavy tariffs on U.S. agricultural products, including beef, pork, chocolate, and baked goods, sending shockwaves through both nations' agricultural sectors. The situation is particularly delicate due to the economic interdependence between these allies. Canadian hog producers, heavily reliant on U.S. markets, face uncertainty as billions in cross-border trade hang in the balance. The tension escalated when the U.S. president imposed a 25% tariff on most Canadian and Mexican goods. Canada responded with matching tariffs on $30 billion worth of American products. Prime Minister Trudeau has threatened to expand these to cover an additional $125 billion in goods. Washington has warned of swift retaliation if Canada proceeds. This standoff has created uncertainty in the agricultural sector, affecting both small farms and major food corporations. The situation raises questions about whether Canada is preparing for a bold move or using this as leverage in broader trade negotiations. Global markets watch nervously as implications extend beyond North America. Market analysts worry about how this dispute could upset North America's trade balance. With political factors like electoral calculations and domestic producer protection in play, the situation grows more complex. The relationship between these economies, sharing the world's longest undefended border and centuries of alliance, stands at a crossroads. The possibility of a trade war, once unlikely between these allies, now threatens North American economic stability. Stay tuned as we monitor this developing situation that could alter North America's economic landscape. Good evening. I'm bringing you a critical update on the escalating trade tensions between the United States and Canada, where a potential agricultural trade war is brewing that could affect dinner tables across North America. Canada's Prime Minister has issued a statement sending shockwaves through international markets. While we attach great importance to our trade relationship, we cannot ignore our national interests. This suggests Canada might implement new tariffs on U.S. agricultural products. Every year, billions in agricultural products cross the world's longest undefended border. Canada sends 76% of its exports to the U.S., while Americans rely on Canada for less than 20% of their imports. The situation is delicate due to Canada's position. With harsh winters and short growing seasons, Canadians depend on American produce. 67% of their vegetable imports and 36% of their fruit imports come from the U.S. As researcher Kushank Bajaj states, "We are really significantly dependent on the United States, and that reliance has made sense for the longest time. Canada's farmers and fishermen produce more than their 41 million citizens can consume, making the U.S. market crucial for their survival." U.S. senators are warning that the agricultural sector won't remain silent about potential Canadian restrictions. This comes as both nations reassess their trade relationships and supply chain vulnerabilities. The stakes are high. If Canada proceeds with new tariffs or quotas, it could trigger retaliatory measures, potentially disrupting decades of trade agreements that have kept prices stable and supplies reliable for consumers on both sides of the border. This is a developing story, and we'll keep you updated as new details emerge. Breaking news from North America's trade front lines. A potential agricultural trade war is brewing between the United States and Canada, with billions of dollars in jobs at stake. Let me paint you a picture. We're talking about a $72.6 billion trade relationship in agriculture. That includes frozen French fries, with Canada exporting $1.7 billion worth to the U.S. The tension stems from Canada considering new tariffs and quotas on U.S. agricultural products. On February 7, 2025, American farmers' representatives warned these policies could wreak havoc on the U.S. agricultural sector. The numbers: Canada exports $40.5 billion in agricultural products to the United States, while American exports to Canada total $32 billion. Canadian exports include bakery products, $5 billion, canola oil, $4.8 billion, and beef and pork products, $3.6 billion. U.S. exports include grain alcohol, $1.7 billion, food preparations, $1.5 billion, and pet food, $1.2 billion. U.S. officials have promised retaliation if Canada proceeds with their plans. Even chocolate, with $2 billion in trade, is caught in the crossfire, demonstrating how deeply intertwined these economies are. The big question: are we heading toward a full-blown trade war between these longtime allies? with U.S. representatives stating they will not leave unilateral agricultural restrictions unanswered. The situation appears more serious than previous disputes. For American farmers and Canadian producers, the stakes are high. This isn't just about numbers. We're talking about family farms, processing plants, and jobs on both sides of the border. Stay tuned as we continue to monitor this developing situation that could affect food prices and availability in both nations. Good evening. I'm bringing you significant developments in North American trade relations that could affect your grocery bills. Canada is contemplating a bold move that could reshape the relationship with its largest trading partner, the United States, starting with something as simple as chocolate. Canadian officials are considering imposing tariffs on U.S. chocolate imports. But this sweet dispute is just the tip of the iceberg. Sources close to the government reveal that while chocolate and baked goods are on the target list, the real focus is on the multi-billion-dollar meat industry. If implemented, these tariffs would immediately impact prices at your local grocery store, particularly in border regions where American products dominate the shelves. Canadian chocolate manufacturers might celebrate, but consumers would face higher prices for their favorite treats. The meat sector, specifically beef and pork imports, represents the main battleground. This makes strategic sense. Meat products have a larger trade volume and are fundamental to both economies. By threatening restrictions in this sector, Canada is attempting to bring the U.S. to the negotiating table. U.S. officials have indicated that this dispute extends beyond trade, encompassing defense policies and technology transfer. This suggests a complex diplomatic chess game, where chocolate and meat are just pawns in a larger strategic battle. Is Canada prepared to follow through, or is this a calculated bluff? Experts point to Canada's own vulnerabilities, particularly in the energy sector, where Canadian exports to the U.S. are vital. This interdependence makes any escalation risky for both nations. The situation illustrates the delicate balance in modern international relations, where trade threats serve as diplomatic tools. As this story develops, we'll keep you informed about how these potential tariffs might affect your wallet and the broader economic landscape. Back to you in the studio. In today's analysis, we examine a pivotal moment in North American trade relations that could reshape the economic landscape between Canada and the United States. The situation has become complex, with Canadian producers pushing for greater independence from U.S. markets, mirroring similar situations in other international trade disputes. The Canadian public appears increasingly receptive to economic sovereignty, despite potential consequences. However, we must consider the volatile nature of international relations. As observers of global politics know, situations can transform rapidly. Today's crisis could become tomorrow's breakthrough. The key question: is Canada prepared for the economic impact of such measures? While diversifying trade partnerships seems attractive, the practical implications could be severe. This reminds us of similar situations in other regions, facing tough choices about economic alliances. Behind-the-scenes negotiations continue, and tariff threats might serve as leverage rather than definitive policy. The political stakes are high. Leaders on both sides must consider how their decisions will affect their political futures. Major concessions could face domestic backlash. Could Canada's threat of agricultural tariffs be a negotiating tactic? Or are we witnessing a genuine shift in North American trade dynamics? The resolution could set precedents for future international trade disputes. This situation resembles other global trade conflicts, where economic decisions became intertwined with political sovereignty. The outcome could influence trade relationships worldwide. Your insights are valuable to our coverage. Share your thoughts on how this trade dispute might be resolved. Stay informed about these crucial developments in international trade relations. We'll continue monitoring this situation, bringing you detailed analysis as events unfold. Thank you for joining this important discussion. Your engagement helps foster understanding of these complex international trade dynamics.